Lisa Morton sat in the cold auction house and watched the auctioneer hold up a photograph of the strangest house she had ever seen. The building looked like something from a storybook, with curved walls and a round door. It was shaped like a dome, almost like a giant mushroom growing out of the Vermont earth. No one was bidding on it. The auctioneer banged his gavel. 5,000, he said in a bored voice, still nothing. The crowd of people around Lisa sat quiet. Some looked at the photograph and then looked away. Others were not even paying attention. The house was too strange, too different, too much work. 2,000, the auctioneer said, trying again. A man in the back raised his hand but then lowered it. His wife pulled on his arm and shook her head. The man nodded and did not bid again. Lisa felt her heart beat faster. She had $140 in her bank account. She had no job right now. Her divorce was finished 3 months ago, and her 2 children, who was 11 and Sophie, who was 8, were waiting for her at her sister's house. They had been living there for 2 months because Lisa could not afford an apartment. The rent in their town was too high. Everything was too expensive. $1,000, the auctioneer said. His voice showed he was losing interest. Do I hear 1,000? Lisa raised her hand. The auctioneer looked surprised. 1,000 from the lady in the back. Do I hear 1,200? No one moved. The man who had almost bid before looked at his wife and then looked away. The auctioneer waited. The wait felt long. Going once, he said. Lisa held her breath. This house was damaged and strange. The photograph showed broken windows and cracked wood. The price was impossible for her to afford. But it was a house. It had walls and a roof. It was real. Going twice. $100, Lisa said suddenly. The auctioneer stared at her. I am sorry, did you say 100? Yes, Lisa said. Her voice was steady. $100. Everyone turned to look at her. The auctioneer shook his head. This is an auction, madam. That is not how this works. I know, Lisa said. She was standing now. But that is all the money I have. The house is damaged. It has been empty for a long time. The property taxes are probably the only thing the previous owners could not pay, so I am offering $100 as a final bid for this damaged, strange property. The auctioneer looked at the man running the auction, a thin man with gray hair who sat at a desk to the side. The gray-haired man shrugged. He looked tired. Lisa knew why. The auction had been going for 6 hours and many properties had not sold. The estate was large. The heirs wanted to move the properties quickly. $100 going once, the auctioneer said slowly. Lisa's hands were shaking. Going twice. No one else moved. Everyone else in the auction house knew better than to take a chance on a house this broken, this weird. Sold to the lady for $100. Lisa sat down and felt tears in her eyes. She was not someone who cried easily, but she let them come. She had a house now. Her children would have a home. 3 days later, Lisa stood in front of the property with a local contractor named Frank. Frank was 62 years old and had worked in building for 40 years. He looked at the house and whistled slowly. Well, Frank said, it is definitely unusual. The house was smaller than it looked in the photograph. The dome shape was strange, but the walls were solid. The round door was made of dark wood and had a brass knob shaped like a sun. The windows were broken on the right side, but the left side had thick glass that was clean and unbroken. The structure is good, Frank said, walking around the building slowly. This was built strong, very strong, better than most houses 50 years old. The materials are not standard. I have never seen this kind of wood before. It is like metal almost, but it is definitely wood. They went inside. The interior was dark. Dust was thick on the floor. The smell was old and dry. There were 2 main rooms on the first level, a kitchen with strange equipment they did not recognize, and a living room with built-in furniture that curved with the walls. A narrow staircase spiraled up to a second level. There is an attic, Frank said, pointing at a small door in the ceiling of the second room. Usually those Hobbit-style houses do not have attics because of the dome shape, but this one does. Lisa climbed the stairs to the second floor. There was a bedroom and a small bathroom. The furniture was simple. The walls curved with the building, and the roof was only about 7 feet high even at the highest point. Would hit his head if he was not careful. Sophie would have plenty of room. She pulled the small cord hanging from the attic door. The wooden stairs unfolded slowly. The attic was small, only about 4 feet high at the peak. Dust and darkness filled it. Lisa climbed carefully and shined her flashlight around. The attic was empty except for old boxes and broken furniture. She pushed the boxes aside and found only clothes and old papers. She was about to leave when her flashlight caught something on the wall. There was a line in the shape of a rectangle, like the outline of a door. Lisa pushed on the wall, nothing happened. She pushed harder. The wall panel moved. Behind it was a hidden space about 1 foot wide and 3 feet tall. Inside was a metal chest, old and covered in rust but still intact. Lisa pulled the chest out carefully. It was not very heavy. She carried it down to the main room where the light was better. Frank was still looking at the kitchen equipment. "This metal here," he said, pointing. "This is not aluminum. I do not know what this is. It is cold even in this warm room. It should have warmed up by now, but it is still cold." Lisa set the chest on the ground and opened it. Inside were star charts drawn on thin metal sheets. The writing was in English, but the words were technical and strange. There were equations covering every page, mathematics she did not understand. And at the bottom of the chest was a small object shaped like a crystal. It was clear like glass, but seemed to have light inside it. When Lisa touched the crystal, it began to hum. The sound was low and steady, almost like a heartbeat. Frank heard it and turned around quickly. "What did you touch?" he asked. "I do not know," Lisa said. "I found this chest in the wall." Frank came closer and looked at the crystal. "That is not normal," he said. "I have seen a lot of things in my life, but I have never seen anything like that." Lisa held the crystal carefully. The humming grew slightly louder when she held it, as if the crystal was reacting to her touch. She looked at the star charts again. One of the charts showed Earth, but the names next to other stars were not the constellations she had learned in school. The names were different. The distances were marked in numbers too large to make sense. "This house was built by someone," Frank said quietly. "Someone very different from normal people." Lisa did not sleep that night. She sat at the kitchen table in her sister's house with the metal sheets spread out in front of her, and Sophie were upstairs sleeping. Her sister Carol had gone to bed an hour ago. The house was quiet except for the sound of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing outside. The star charts were unlike anything she had studied. She had taken science in high school like everyone else, but this was different. This was not theoretical. These were measurements, coordinates, distances between planets and stars that should not exist according to Earth's astronomy. One chart showed a familiar pattern, Earth's solar system, the sun, the planets in their correct order, but next to Earth's position, written in careful handwriting, was a note. Terran position, third planet, classification, protected world, access restricted. Another chart showed lines connecting dozens of stars in a pattern that made sense as a network. Each star had a number. Earth's sun had a number 2. It was the number 847, written in a careful hand beneath it. The other stars had numbers like 12, 489, 1003, 5462. The numbers seemed random at first, but then Lisa understood. They were identifying numbers, like addresses. At the bottom of one metal sheet was a date, June 15, 1973. Lisa pulled out her phone and searched online. She typed "Scientist 1973." The search results appeared slowly. The first result was an old newspaper article from the New York Times. The headline read, "Doctor Missing in Arctic Research Expedition." The article was from 1973. Doctor had been leading a secret government research program studying atmospheric phenomena in the Arctic Circle. She had disappeared during an expedition. The article said she had been the daughter of a famous physicist and had a reputation for brilliant but unconventional research. The government had listed her as lost and presumed dead after search teams found no trace of her. Lisa kept searching. There were more articles, had been born in 1945. She had attended MIT and she had written papers on quantum mechanics and atmospheric ionization that were too advanced for the general public to understand. Then in 1973, she was gone. But there was another article, this one from a smaller newspaper in Vermont dated 1975. It was about the sale of a property described as a unique dome-shaped residence to a private buyer. The article mentioned that the house had been designed by an anonymous architect and that the structure had unusual architectural features. The sale had been private, but the town records had noted it for property tax purposes. Lisa searched for more information about. She found a photograph in one of the online archives. It was from a university yearbook. Was young, maybe 30 years old, with dark hair and serious eyes. She was not smiling. There was one more article, this one from 1972, the year before disappeared. It mentioned that she had been approved for a special project with applications in communications technology. The article was vague, but it suggested she was working on something important for the government. Lisa knew what she had found, had built this house, had hidden these star charts, had left the crystal for someone to find. Over the next 2 weeks, Lisa worked during the day to clean the house and work with Frank to repair the broken windows and damaged areas. During the nights, she studied the star charts and the equations. She found more papers in the chest, including a handwritten journal. The journal was detailed and personal. She wrote about her work on a government program that had made contact with alien civilizations. She wrote that world leaders had decided to keep this knowledge secret from the general public. She wrote that Earth had been classified as a protected world by something called the Galactic Council, a federation of many intelligent species, had been chosen to serve as a representative because of her scientific brilliance. But had made a choice. She had decided to leave Earth and join the Galactic Council's research initiative. The house had been her way of leaving something behind, something for the future, something for when humanity was ready. The most important entry was dated June 14, 1973, the day before the expedition disappeared. Had written, "Tomorrow I leave for the stars. I hope that someday someone from my family or a future occupant of this house will find what I have left behind. I hope that person will have the wisdom to understand what this means. Humanity is young, but we are not alone. We are watched, we are protected, and we are loved by those who are older and wiser than we are. If you are reading this, then the time has come for humanity to know the truth. The device I am leaving behind can send a message to the stars. Use it when you are ready. Use it when the time is right. Trust your heart. Trust your instincts. Humanity will not fail when the moment comes to choose between fear and hope." At the bottom of the entry was something else, a photograph. It showed, standing next to a small child, a girl who looked about 5 years old. They were standing in front of the dome-shaped house, was smiling, and the child was holding her hand. On the back of the photograph had written one sentence, "For my daughter, so she will always remember." Lisa sat back from the table, had a child, a daughter. The house belonged to his family. Lisa was living in a house that belonged to the family of the woman who had made first contact with an alien civilization. She picked up the crystal again. It was still humming softly, the same steady hum she had heard when she first touched it. She looked at the star charts spread across her table. She was looking at the structure of the galaxy itself. She was looking at addresses to worlds she could not imagine. Lisa knew what she had to do. She had to find his daughter, and then she had to decide whether to. Lisa waited for 3 weeks before she activated the device. She used that time to research his family. She found that his daughter had been born in 1968 and had died in 2015 at the age of 47. Had lived a quiet life as a teacher in Massachusetts. She had married once and divorced. She had one child, a son named David, who was now 27 years old and worked as an engineer in Boston. Lisa had written David a letter. She had explained that she owned the house that his grandmother had once lived in. She had asked if he knew anything about or the house's history. David had responded quickly. He said that his mother had rarely spoken about her mother, but that she had told him once that his grandmother had been involved in government work and had gone away when was very young, had kept a box of letters that had sent over the years. In these letters, had written about worlds beyond Earth and about the day when humanity would be ready to meet the stars. David had offered to drive to Vermont and help Lisa understand what she had found. They had met in the house 3 days ago. When Lisa showed him the crystal and the star charts, David had cried. He had held the photograph of and his mother, and he had understood that his family had been keeping this secret for generations. "My mother left me something when she died," David had said. "It was a journal. She wrote about visiting this house once when she was 12 years old. She wrote that her mother showed her the attic. She wrote that told her to come back someday and find what she had hidden. She wrote that she was afraid to do it." David had helped Lisa understand the equations and the star charts. He had pointed out that notes included instructions for activating the crystal. The instructions were written in simple English. They said, "The device is a communication beacon. Touch the primary crystal and think of the word activate. The device will send a message to the nearest listening station. The message will identify Earth and request recognition by the Galactic Council. Do this only when humanity is ready for change." Lisa had looked at David. "Are we ready?" she asked. "I do not know," David said. "But I think my mother wanted us to be ready. I think my grandmother believed that whoever found this house would be the right person to make this choice." That night Lisa had decided. She had touched the crystal and thought the word activate clearly in her mind. The crystal had glowed brightly, brighter than it had ever glowed before. It had hummed louder, then it had stopped. The light had faded, the humming had ceased. "It is done," Lisa had said to David. "I have sent the message." 3 days later, strange things began happening in the sky near the town. The news reported unusual atmospheric readings. Scientists were confused. The phenomenon appeared to be centered in the rural area where Lisa's house was located, but no one could explain it. The government sent investigators. Scientists arrived with equipment. The local police set up checkpoints on roads leading to the area. Lisa had moved and Sophie to Carol's house in the next town. She had told them that there was a water contamination problem and that she wanted them to be safe. It was not exactly a lie. She did not know what was coming, and she wanted to protect her children. On the 14th day after activating the crystal, Lisa was sitting in her house when she heard a sound like nothing she had ever heard before. It was not a sound that came through her ears exactly. It was a sound she felt in her body, in her bones, in her mind. It was the sound of something massive moving through the air at impossible speed. She ran outside. Above the forest behind her house, the air was shimmering. The shimmer grew larger and brighter. Then shapes became visible. A ship, a spacecraft. It was unlike anything human engineers had ever built. It was smooth and streamlined with curves instead of angles. There were lights underneath it, not the harsh white lights of human technology, but soft blue lights that seemed to glow from within the metal itself. The ship descended slowly. It did not land. It hovered about 100 feet above the tree line, maybe 200 feet from Lisa's house. A door opened underneath it. A ramp extended downward, and figures began moving down the ramp toward the ground. Lisa stood frozen. These were not human. They were shaped somewhat like humans, with 2 arms and 2 legs and a head, but their skin was silver and smooth. They moved with a fluid grace, their joints bending in ways human joints could not bend. There were 4 of them. They wore clothing that seemed to be part of their bodies, silver and flowing like water. The one at the front, slightly taller than the others, raised one arm. When it moved, its hand opened and a light appeared in its palm. The light formed symbols. The symbols were in English. They read, "We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We are here because of the signal sent from this location. We have come to verify that humanity is ready for first contact." Lisa's heart was beating so fast she thought it would break her ribs. She could not move. She could not speak. "Do not be afraid," the symbols said. "We mean no harm to you or your species. We come only to observe and to listen. Are you the one who activated the communication device?" Lisa found her voice. "Yes," she said, "I am." "Then we must speak," the being said. "There is much to explain, and there is very little time. Your governments are moving toward this location. They are afraid of what they do not understand. We must know if you, a representative of humanity, can make choices with wisdom. We must know if you can lead. The government agents arrived at Lisa's house 2 hours after the alien ship descended. Federal vehicles blocked the roads. Soldiers with weapons took positions around the property. News helicopters flew overhead, the sky filled with light and noise. Lisa was brought into custody by people in dark suits who did not give her their names. They took her to a facility 20 miles away, a military base hidden in the mountains. There, in a secure room with no windows, she was questioned for 8 hours. The agents wanted to know everything. How did she find the device? Who had told her about it? What did the aliens want? Why had she activated the crystal without notifying authorities? Lisa answered their questions, but she gave them limited information. She did not tell them about S journal or about David. She did not tell them about the instructions on how to use the device. One agent, an older man named Captain Williams, seemed different from the others. He listened more than he spoke. When the other agents grew frustrated with Lisa's answers, he raised his hand and asked them to leave the room. "I have a daughter," he said when they were alone. "She is 16 years old. She wants to be a doctor. She dreams of making the world better. When she was born, I held her in my arms and I promised her that I would protect her. I would do anything to protect her." Lisa nodded. She understood what he was saying. "The aliens have told our government that they want to make contact with humanity," Williams continued. "They say they want to help us. They say they have technology that could eliminate disease and poverty and suffering, but our leaders are afraid. Fear makes people do stupid things. Fear makes them want to fight instead of listen." He leaned forward. "The question is not whether we can trust the aliens. The question is whether we can trust ourselves to make the right choice. You have children, Mrs. Morton, the same age as my daughter was years ago. You understand that protecting them means making hard decisions. What do you want me to do? Lisa asked. The aliens have asked to speak with you again, William said. They have asked for your permission to broadcast a message directly to the people of Earth, not to governments, not to leaders, to the people themselves. They want to explain who they are and why they are here. They believe that ordinary people, not military leaders and politicians, should decide whether to accept first contact. Lisa understood what this meant. The government would lose control of the narrative. The truth would be spread everywhere at once. Some people would celebrate, some people would panic. Some would demand change, some would demand destruction. If I agree, what happens to me? Lisa asked. You become the most important person in the world for a few days, William said. And then you become irrelevant because everything will change so quickly that no one will remember who started it. Your children might be proud of you, or they might blame you for disrupting their lives. You cannot know. Lisa thought about Sophie. She thought about the world they would inherit. She thought about who had given up everything to join the stars, but who had left behind hope for her own species. Tell them yes, Lisa said. Tell the aliens yes. The message was broadcast 48 hours later. It went out simultaneously on every television, every radio, every internet connection on Earth. The alien representatives appeared on screens around the world. They introduced themselves as members of the Galactic Council. They explained their purpose. They explained that Earth had been protected and observed for hundreds of years because of humanity's potential. They explained that they had come to offer partnership, not conquest. The world exploded into chaos. Some governments welcomed the contact. Others called it a hoax. Religious leaders debated whether aliens could exist and whether accepting their help was a betrayal of faith. Scientists demanded proof. Military leaders demanded weapons. Young people celebrated in the streets. Old people prayed in their homes. But something unexpected happened. Instead of turning against each other, people began demanding that their governments cooperate. People demanded that world leaders work together to respond to the aliens as one species, not as competing nations. The fear and chaos led to unity. The crisis became an opportunity. Lisa was taken to a secure location with Sophie. Her sister Carol was also brought there. The government told Lisa that it was for her protection, but Lisa knew it was also to keep her from speaking to the media. She spent her days with her children. She held Sophie when the 8-year-old had nightmares. She helped with his homework even though school had been closed down because of the chaos. She told them both that she had done something important, something that would change the world. Will we die? Sophie asked on the third day. No, Lisa said, holding her daughter close. Change is scary, but it is not death. Change is the beginning of something new. Are the aliens good? Asked. I do not know, Lisa said honestly. But I know that if we do not try to understand them, we will never have the chance to know. The worst thing we could do is choose fear when we could choose hope. On the 7th day, the Galactic Council representatives asked to speak with Lisa again. They told her that they had received permission from the nations of Earth to establish a formal diplomatic post. They explained that they needed a human representative, someone who could learn their ways and help translate between worlds. They asked Lisa if she would spend 6 months aboard their station, learning about galactic culture and governance. Lisa looked at her children, was trying to be brave, but she could see fear in his eyes. Sophie was holding her hand so tightly it hurt. I will do it, Lisa said, but only if my children are safe and cared for while I am gone. We will ensure their safety, the alien representative said, and we will bring you home, I promise you this. Humans who commit to understanding are valued by the Council. You will be honored, and your children will be proud. 2 weeks later, Lisa said goodbye to Sophie at a secure military facility. She held them. Lisa returned to Earth on a cold morning in March, 6 months after she left. The ship landed at the same location, near the dome-shaped house in Vermont. A crowd of thousands had gathered despite the early hour and the freezing temperature. News crews from around the world were present. Government officials waited in protected areas. And among the crowd, standing with their Aunt Carol, were Sophie. Lisa saw them before they saw her. Her children had grown, was taller. Sophie had cut her hair. They looked older and stronger than when she had left them. They looked like they had learned things she could not teach them. She walked down the ramp from the ship, and Sophie started running. Followed. They collided with Lisa, and she fell to her knees and held them both, crying in a way she had not cried since she was a child herself. "Mom," Sophie said, her voice filled with worry, "you have been gone so long." "I know," Lisa said, "but I am back now. I am back, and I am never leaving you again." The 6 months on the Galactic Council station had changed Lisa in ways she could not have predicted. She had learned about civilizations that existed for millions of years. She had learned that the universe was filled with life and intelligence and compassion. She had learned that humanity was young but not inferior. She had learned that her species had a gift that older civilizations no longer possessed, the ability to choose hope when fear would be easier. The council representatives had explained to her why humanity mattered so much. They explained that most species, when they reached the level of technology that humans were approaching, destroyed themselves through warfare or environmental collapse. Humanity's threat to itself was unique because humans were capable of rapid moral growth. Humans could change their values and their behavior when they understood that survival required change. This made humans valuable. This made humanity worth protecting. They had explained that the technology being given to Earth was not complete. It was enough to transform human civilization, but it was not enough to give humans weapons that could threaten other worlds. The Galactic Council wanted humanity to mature at its own pace, guided by wisdom rather than powered by weapons. In the months since the contact, the nations of Earth had worked together in ways they never had before. The United Nations had been reformed into a true representative body for all of humanity. Governments had committed to sharing resources and knowledge. The first shipments of medical technology had begun saving lives. Clean energy technology had started replacing fossil fuels. Scientific knowledge that would take humans 1,000 years to discover on their own had been shared. There were still those who opposed the contact. Some religious groups believed that aliens were demons. Some military leaders wanted to weaponize the alien technology. Some politicians wanted to monopolize the knowledge for their own nations. But these voices were becoming quieter because the benefits were visible and immediate. The house became a landmark. Historians descended on it. They studied it carefully and concluded that the construction techniques were in advance of human capabilities from the 1970s. This journal was and published. Her photographs were displayed in museums around the world. She became a hero to humanity, a woman who had given up everything so that her species could eventually find the truth. David, his grandson, became an ambassador to the Galactic Council alongside Lisa. He worked with the council to establish educational programs. Young humans were selected to train as diplomats and scientists who could work directly with the older species. The first group of human students was scheduled to leave Earth in 2 years. Wanted to be one of them? He had always been intelligent, but since his mother had returned, he had become obsessed with learning about the galaxy. He spent his evenings studying mathematics and physics and languages. He wanted to follow in his great-grandmother's footsteps. He wanted to travel to the stars. Sophie wanted something different. She wanted to be a doctor. The medical technology that the Galactic Council had shared had revealed cures for diseases that had killed humans for centuries. Sophie wanted to learn those cures and bring them to parts of the world where they were still needed. She wanted to help people who had no access to technology or resources. Lisa was proud of both of them. 18 months after the contact, Lisa stood in the garden of the dome-shaped house within Sophie. The house had been renovated carefully, preserving its original design but making it livable for a modern family. Lisa had moved back in with her children. The government had offered her a position as Earth's primary representative to the Galactic Council, but she had declined. She had asked for a position that would allow her to stay on Earth and raise her children. The Council had agreed. They understood that family was important to humans. They understood that mothers who were separated from their children became less effective at their work. They offered Lisa a role as a cultural liaison based on Earth, helping other worlds understand human values and human needs. "Tell us about the stars again, Mom," Sophie said, looking up at the night sky. Lisa pointed to the different constellations. She explained which stars had worlds around them and which ones had been described to her by the aliens. She told them about a planet with oceans that were 30 miles deep and creatures that thought in ways humans could not imagine. She told them about a world of pure desert where a civilization had learned to create beauty from sand and minerals. She told them about ancient civilizations that had been spacefaring, when Earth's first humans were learning to make fire. "Will we ever go there?" asked. "Yes," Lisa said. If you want to, you will go there. All of humanity will eventually go to the stars. Knew this. She believed it would happen. She left this house and left her journal so that someday we would find the truth. Sophie held her mother's hand. I am glad you did not stay there. I am glad you came back. I had to come back, Lisa said. You are my most important work. You are my greatest responsibility. The stars will still be there when you are ready to explore them. But you are here now, and you are my priority. The crystal that had left behind was now displayed in a special case in the house. It no longer hummed. It had served its purpose. Humans had received the message. The path forward was clear. In the following years, humanity changed rapidly. But the change came from within. Humans chose cooperation over conflict. Humans chose hope over fear. The technology shared by the Galactic Council transformed human civilization, but it was human wisdom and human compassion that determined how the technology was used. Lisa's story became legend. The single mother who bought a damaged house for $100 and found the key to humanity's future. Some people called her a hero. Others called her reckless for activating the crystal without understanding the consequences. But most people understood that she had made the only choice she could have made, the choice that honored faith in humanity and protected her own children's future. Eventually did travel to the stars. He became a brilliant diplomat and mathematician who worked with the Galactic Council to help younger species navigate the challenges of technological advancement. Sophie became a doctor who brought healing technology to the regions of Earth first, ensuring that the benefits of contact were shared equally. And Lisa spent her life in the dome-shaped house, raising her children and helping humanity understand their place in the cosmos. The house that had been sold for $100 because no one believed it had value became the symbol of humanity's greatest transformation. A small, strange house hidden in Vermont had turned out to contain the answer to humanity's oldest question: are we alone in the universe? The answer was no, and life would never be the same again. And promised that she would return. She told them that she loved them more than life itself. She told them that she was doing this for them so that their future would be better. She walked toward the alien ship with her eyes forward. She did not look back because if she looked back, she would not be able to leave. The door of the ship closed behind her. The ramp retracted. The ship rose into the sky slowly and then with increasing speed until it became a point of light and then nothing at all. In Carol's care, and Sophie watched their mother disappear into the stars. They did not understand all that had happened, but they understood that their mother was brave. They understood that she had made a choice that would make the world different, and they understood that she would come home. Species toward understanding rather than fear. Lisa took a step forward. She was terrified, but she was also certain of something, had left this gift for her. The universe had brought her to this house, to this moment, for a reason. She was a single mother who had fought to protect her children and build a better life. If she could survive that, she could speak to the stars. I am ready to listen, Lisa said. Tell me what you need from humanity. Use the device to send a message to the stars. The world would change after that. Everything would change. But first, she needed to understand what had left behind. She needed to understand why had trusted that someday someone would find her gift. Lisa nodded. She was holding a mystery in her hands. She was holding something that could change everything. And she knew she could not tell anyone about it, not yet. First, she had to understand what it was.